Thank you very much. I'd like to welcome all the participants of the conference. This presentation that we are going to deliver together with Judit is about the capacity building of cultural capital and the small capacity building program, the PAITA program, and the impacts, results of the PAITA program. And my task is to say a few introductory sentences about the program. As Alice also mentioned, the small settlement capacity building covers a complicated effort, which was that we wanted to discuss the missing cultural services and provide these missing cultural services of small settlements in cooperation with the leaders of the settlements and this in the framework of an application. So we had cultural organizations, tango, drama pedagogy, English teaching. There was a wide spectrum and colorful programs. And if I'm looking for the reasons why we thought that it would be good to discuss it in a full panel in a conference, then I could find three things. I saw very few founding deeds for huge projects, where it was not only a slogan to have a right to culture and to change cultural discrepancies and the need to change the inequalities in culture. So we thought it was a real effort to do this, and this program was an important momentum for that. It was our great pleasure, and it was also unexpected how much positive feedback we got from these projects. And so from the partners, we received lots of positive feedback. And the third reason is that while the ECOG has very professional competencies in monitoring, the PAITA program, in cooperation with the Pannonia University, it also included, our program also included a deep research effort, and the research gave a different framework to the program as well. And before I give the floor to Judit, from the Pannonia University and the research that was about the PAITA program, I would say a few words about the basic principles of the program.
So, yes, theory and practice, it's not the same. They are two different things. I will be very short on theory, and afterwards my colleague Judit will guide us towards the realizations and actions. So, what were our goals? The first goal was to create an inclusive space for innovation and culture in small settlements. And I do think that kind of a cultural education should be part of everyday life. It should not be just once in a week or in a month. So whenever it comes to capacity building in the culture field, we just have to try to create permanency in order to really achieve the real goal to make culture present in small settlements. And it is very important to get there. It means that they shouldn't quit or go elsewhere in order to find some culture, but culture should find them. So we had to also change our skills. I do think that there are some specific elements in this project. First of all, we were given a toolbox, so we could really get closer to our partners. And it was very important that we created a common basis for communication. We really achieved programs which were durable in time. And I do think that we paid a little bit more attention, or even much more attention, to the locals. So this is the theoretical background, and what we did really achieve, well, it will be Judit to speak about. Good afternoon. I would like to welcome all my colleagues, and we had some interviews that we had to realize, and thank you for all the colleagues and locals who worked with us. I am sure that this project, this PITA project, was something unique, and I joined this project in the monitoring phases. And whenever it comes to an international conference, and whenever it comes to the presentation of this project, well, what we can see is that we addresses some problems and issues, namely render culture accessible. Well, I do think that it was and it will be a relevant issue for lots of cities in the cultural capital program. Of course, it was interesting and important to define the numbers. Of course, for that, in order to establish data, we did some research and field work. And what about the analysis? It was just after the gathering of the data that it was possible to do. So our program, PITA, is really unique in the sense that data, the hard framework, is just the beginning. And perhaps we'll need 10 more years in order to gather real results. So now we gather the data disponible, accessible, and then we will see. Of course, I never ever will quote name. It's anonymous. So we interviewed lots of people. The first question was the Veszprém-Balaton region. So this common attitude toward the town and the whole region. So I joined this program in 2021, and my basic research area is tourism in the Balaton region. And of course, we asked the question that this specific year, what it could bring as a plus to our region. Enhanced cultural activity, of course, there's nothing new in it. Cooperation between settlements, it's also very important that it can have several scales, small circles or bigger ones that can connect. What was important, and it was underlined by participants, is cultural consciousness. Of course, applicants had quite the freedom how to act, but they got also knowledge and values how to deal with this whole program. So our programs and our POITA program was open for settlements with less than 5,000 inhabitants. So of course, whenever you've got towns and cities like Balatonfüred, it is not so easy to do something whenever you are just next to it and you are small. So that is why our program really aimed for the development of those settlements. And also, of course, we never ever left our partners alone during this process. We accompanied them. And for every single settlement, what we could see during those interviews is the following. Culture and developments, these were the basic pillars in their minds. It was important for them. And yes, in the beginning of our conference, we've already talked about that. That there is a personal commitment. If you question winemakers or others, all the time you can see if there is a personal commitment, results are quite different. So, what is very important is that in the framework of this program, it was possible to choose, for example, some activities which were already present and enhance them. And all these small settlements, villages, they really felt themselves just like a kind of a glue. So it's in these small villages, we did not have in the framework of this program, we did not invest in the infrastructure, but in the connectivity. So yes, we wanted to start something, and just like a pot of yeast, it will grow and grow and grow and connect. And of course, whenever we start things, there are some things that function very well and others which function less. Of course, we'll have to monitor and change all the things later on if there's a need to do so. And I do think generational gaps, it's not at all a Balaton region issue. It's a global one. It's a global challenge. So generational gap, it was one of the main topics of our POITA program. So yes, very often we wanted to offer several kind of programs, generation by generation, and also transverse programs in order to really gather together all generations. It was also important that we wanted to think in processes and fluxes. We wanted to create connectivity between generations, between places, activities. In order to do so, we had to get a better knowledge of ourselves, of our culture. And yes, normally it should lead to inclusivity, which is very important, and it should be repetitive, systematical. So inclusivity and repetitivity were very important characteristics. For example, if you want to launch a festival, these are very important questions too. So yes, we've already talked about the participation and the enrichment of a culture offer. And of course, it is something more subjective. Quality of life and local identity, it's something much more subjective. But we could see that even if it is not that measurable, we could have a positive impact both on quality of life and local identity. Yes, political decision makers are very often interested how we can integrate all these results and all these documents in a new application. So that is why we wanted to have a unified image. We wanted to really create something which you can identify easily. Of course, it's been a very specific year, and we had more and more possibilities during that very year. So it's clear that the feedback was positive. Culture and community, really, it's something which is important for all local people. And it is important that it was orientated, but at the same time something which gave us enough freedom to create what we wanted to do. So people were happy to be able to express the culture and community. They were happy with this unified image, and they were happy with the professional mentoring. What they did not like, it was the fact that they thought that it was not, the visibility was not enough, and own resources were not enough. So very often, for example, you've got people who are already working a lot in libraries, for example, and so on, and we expected them to do even more. Well, it was something which they lived a little bit more difficultly. It means that they had to work more, and it was a little bit more stressful for them. And Facebook, social media, marketing, posts, well, it's really something which is a global issue, because, for example, if I've got to do something in a vineyard, I cannot spend hours on Facebook, so it generated more work. So that was the negative feedback part. And what about the synthesis? I won't say anything new by saying that the human factor is key, of course, because whenever there is a goal, there is all the time a human being behind, and it is very important. It is key, mainly for the generations to come after us, because we have to be exemplary. It's very important to know what we now we show as an example to the future generations, what we decide to help, how we decide to act. We could also, of course, see that local specialties have to be taken into account. You cannot use the same recipe everywhere. And it was so important to adapt all programs to local needs and possibilities. We try to do so, but of course we can all the time do it better and more. And we also saw that to have funding in itself, it's not enough to have success. We need more. Of course, we should profit of it, and also it's sure that whenever a dynamism has been created, it is very important to go on. Okay, so I will be quite short. Thank you very much for all the positive feedback. Thank you very much for the face-to-face criticisms, because we've learned a lot and lots of lessons too. And it was so great to hear and see even today several players, mayors and so on. It is so important for us to discover partners, initiatives, because during these 1 or 2 years we all the time could identify that behind every single project and program there is somebody with his or her heart. So I was so happy to see that we could integrate all these best wishes. And now I do hope that political leaders, whenever it comes to deciding on the future, they will take into account all these experiences. We've got, let's say, experiences in the air. It's up to us how to use them. Research is an ongoing process. There is only one thing I would like to conclude with. In a very informal way, we tried to communicate with all locals and partners and all directors and so on. And Mr. Mayor told us that the main experience it was that it is not true that the common project has to be a failure. So it was a great thing, because in Hungarian we say otherwise, we've got a local expression. So for us